Come on!
Yo, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and dogs, sheep and giraffe, all creatures great and tall, big and small. I'm George, here to tell you about Colossal.
Give him a good show.
Now, initially, I was very excited about Colossal because some weeks back I was riding the London Underground and I was in a hurry, I was in a rush, and I got out of the train and I ran, and as I was running, something caught my eye and compelled me to stop. I stopped and I looked at a poster that was on the wall and I thought, hey, that's an 80s poster. Now, I say quite often that modern movie posters are dire, they are awful, they are terrible, they are certainly by no means the kind of thing that I would like to have on my wall. Now, Colossal may not be the finest movie poster of all time, but it is definitely a throwback, an homage to 80s movie posters, not only because of the image and the colouring and the style and the design, but also the tagline. It so obviously has an 80s movie poster tagline. So I thought, oh, I'm excited about that film. And I looked down to the bottom corner and I noticed that the film was written and directed by the same guy, which did not come as a surprise, because when you see a poster like that in modern day, it is so rare that somebody went to great lengths to make the effort to get the poster to be like that. And I would bet that the guy who wrote the film and directed the film also was very strict about the kind of poster that he wanted. So anyway, I ventured to the cinema when it came out to see the movie, and I was excited. And you know what happened? I got to the cinema and they said to me, yes, it's on upstairs in our smallest screen. And I said, what? Why so small? The movie just came out. And they said, yeah, but other films have come out, Snatched has come out, Arthur has come out, and they are taking the big screens. And I said, yeah, but this is a big movie. It's a monster movie. It's a blockbuster. It's got cityscapes and destruction. And they went, what can we do? So I actually postponed watching the movie. I don't do that very often, but I was like, no, this has an 80s movie poster. So I'm going to make the effort to see it on a big screen. And some days later, I went to a different cinema and I saw it on a big screen. And you know what was sad? What was sad is there was only me and two other guys in the cinema. And even though the movie had pretty much just come out, this was the last screening that the film was going to get in that particular audience. Anyway, how was the film? Well, I was not surprised to discover that it was actually really good. This film, unfortunately, is one of those movies that comes along once in a while and nobody really bothers to see, perhaps because it's too original. But there's another thing. The writer-director of the film clearly understands the old-fashioned art of storytelling. What I mean by that is, if you go right back into the origins of storytelling, stories were predominantly metaphorical. Whether you go back to the short stories of people like Geoffrey Chaucer or Hans Christian Andersen, or even the Bible, stories are predominantly metaphorical. I know some Christians are going to get angry with me for that, but a lot of the Bible is metaphorical, it is short stories, and Jesus even talked in metaphor. And one of the reasons why stories in their origin were symbolic for something bigger, they were not to be taken literally, is because you have to consider that language is an invention. For around 120,000 years, humans walked the earth with no language at all. And the very first stories that humans would have told when they started to develop language would have been dreams. They would have said, I had this dream last night. And then people would have tried to work out what did that dream mean. And most dreams are also metaphorical. They are telling you something about your life, about your state of mind, about your current circumstances. So the first fictional stories would have been dreams. I had a dream last night. What does it mean? And then stories did become fictional. People started to write and get creative and manufacture their own fictional stories, which would have followed the same trend. Metaphorical stories that are fun and interesting but actually have a deeper meaning. Even the great masterful writer Ray Bradbury admitted that all of his short stories were metaphorical because he too followed the old-fashioned method of telling stories, Ray Bradbury being the man who inspired Stephen King to write and inspired Steven Spielberg to want to tell stories and make films. That's how good Bradbury is, and he also wrote in metaphors.
But I discovered along the way I was a collector of metaphors. And I had a fight with the editors all the time. They said, well, we want traditional ghost stories. I said, I don't write traditional ghost stories. I look in the mirror and scare the hell out of myself. Huh?
In the modern day, most stories and most cinema is not metaphorical, not symbolic of any kind of deeper meaning or bigger picture. It is simply entertainment. You take it literally. This film, Colossal, the director clearly understood the old-fashioned way of storytelling. So what you go to see is a monster movie, without question an unusual monster movie, but the point of the film is actually a story about alcohol and alcoholism and the negative impact that consuming vast amounts of alcohol and becoming an alcoholic, the negative impact that that can have on your life and the lives of people around you.
You are out of control, and I love you, but I cannot deal with you in that state.
What are you talking about?
So I've packed your things, they're in the bedroom.
What?
You can keep the cases, they're cheap ones.
What?
And it's actually a very simple story, well told. The point is, here's this girl, played by Anne Hathaway, who I must say does an excellent job.
Aria, where's the plug? My phone is on red right now.
But anyway, what is the metaphor? The metaphor is so bloody simple. A woman gets drunk, stays up all night, wakes up in the morning, and then she sees on television that this monster has appeared across the sea in Korea, destroying buildings and killing innocent people. And this monster seems to appear during the kinds of hours when she's very drunk late at night. And all it's supposed to mean is sometimes when people drink, they become monsters. It's the idea that you drink so much, you wake up in the morning, you've got a hangover, you can't remember what you did the night before, and then somebody might show you a film of what you did and you're like, oh my god, is that me? That's so embarrassing, that's so bad.
You don't remember anything last night, huh?
I got really melodramatic, didn't I?
The point being that when some people drink too much, they become monsters.
Look how these people are looking at us.
She's the monster.
And the other point being that sometimes if you drink too much, frequently, you hurt people and you hurt yourself. It's a negative spiral. Sometimes you're not even aware of the people you are hurting. So let's say, for example, that it hurts your partner. Well, you think, I'm only hurting my partner, that's not good, but that's only one person. Except that your partner then in an upset mood goes to work and his negativity, depression, worry rubs off onto the people around him and he makes their day worse. And then the people whose days he's made worse, they have to deal with it too, and maybe it rubs off onto other people. So the point is that singular negativity from something like alcohol can have a rippling effect, and those ripples can spread further and wider than an individual can necessarily comprehend. And that's the point of the movie Colossal. When you drink too much, too frequently, it can turn some people into monsters. And the story's told extremely well. Even the visuals are told extremely well. The director understands that not only does dialogue carry a story, but visuals do as well. I love the fact that when the movie opens, Anne Hathaway is being kicked out by her boyfriend, who's like, I've had enough of you and your alcohol. And if you pay attention to the camera, the way it's framed, she's sitting in this apartment, sad, feeling lost, rejected, dejected, alone, okay? And then what happens? Her drinking buddies, her other alcoholic friends, swoop into the background and they all start having fun and partying and they're playing, right? And at no point do they ever acknowledge her. At no point do they look at her. At no point do they interact with her. At no point do they speak to her. And the director's making a point that, are these people even her real friends? They're just other alcoholics who come together to drink together, but the real reason they are coming together is to drink. It is not to socialize, it is not to take care of each other, it is not to even be friends. So he's using his camera in a subtle way and a powerful way to actually provide a meaning within the image, like old-fashioned film storytellers did, because film, in its origins, was silent. So there was commonly meaning in an image. When language came along, things changed. What's best is when you get good dialogue and meaning in an image. Most people who go to the cinema nowadays, I don't mean this to be insulting, but it's true, most people who go to the cinema nowadays don't look for meaning in the imagery. They look for meaning in the story and the dialogue, the narration, etc. If you pay close attention, some directors might have something where a character says one thing, but the camera says something else. And that happens at times in this movie, which is wonderful to see because it's ever so rare. Another thing that I particularly liked about this film is that the story of alcohol and alcoholism could be told in such a terrible modern soap opera way. It is so common to see a kind of gritty drama about some drunken mother or a drunken boyfriend who beats up his girlfriend, and those films are just irritating and they are unimaginative. They are usually trying to be really deep and meaningful and educational, and for the most part I have very little time for them unless they are told exceptionally well. This movie makes the story fun, which is what the best storytellers of history did. If you think of a story like The Boy Who Cried Wolf, it is a very simple children's story with a much, much deeper meaning about the problem of lying, and you could tell that story in a modern soap opera fashion about like a husband who keeps on lying to his wife, and it's miserable and it's depressing and it's dark and it's moody and it's brooding and it's completely unmemorable and it's certainly not fun, and you witness all the negativity and the turmoil and the destruction of the relationship, but it wouldn't be painted and able to be enjoyed through a brighter filter, let's say, which some of the best storytellers do. They tell you an important story, but they make it fun. That's what this movie Colossal is doing. That's what it's about. Now, is it the best film ever made? No. I'm simply celebratory of the fact that at least he got these things right, these rare things right. Ultimately, it is very, very good. It's a really good film. It gets the metaphor spot on. I was not confused at any point in regards to what it was trying to say. It was fun, it was funny, it was interesting. I like the fact that it showed soap opera type things like domestic violence, but it kind of made fun of them. Now, one thing that I also particularly liked about the film, it also expressed the fact that for all people on earth, me, you, and everyone else you've ever met and ever will meet, sometimes our problems seem enormous. They seem gigantic. They seem the size of a building. When things are bothering you, it really does seem chaotic, like the end of the world, like something incredibly important. In reality, if you were to look at yourself from space or whatever, your problems are very, very small in regards to the actual planet and everybody on it. But in our heads, they seem enormous, like monsters destroying buildings. And that's also very poignant and clear in the film.
But it just made a bunch of weird hand gestures.
It's an important story, but what I like about it is that it is not an uncommon story. It is not something that anybody doesn't know. You can ask most people, is alcoholism good? They will tell you, no, of course not. But to make a story about alcoholism fun and educational and relevant is certainly unique and interesting, and to give it a little bit of an 80s spin and an old-fashioned storytelling style that is very rare for modern cinema. Great stories that stick in our heads and that remain and echo through history are very commonly simple stories with a much bigger meaning. Colossal is certainly one of those stories. It's not the best. I don't think it's necessarily going to last forever like some of those other stories, but it deserves more acclaim. It deserves far more positive reactions than it got. It certainly doesn't deserve to. It is flopping. It's very unfortunate because it means these films are not going to continue to be made because no one's going to see them. Instead, they're going to see Wonder Woman and stuff, which I'm not criticizing. I haven't seen it yet, but it's a shame when people don't go and see these genuinely good, innovative, interesting, and original movies.
Give him a good show.
To finalize this review, the movie finished and I thought, my god, an actual film, an actual story. And the second it finished, the two guys behind me, the only guys in the cinema, the credits roll and the guy behind me says, "We should have seen Snatch, man." And I was like, ugh. It's literally like sometimes you can hand somebody a bar of gold and they just don't get it. A lot of people would watch Colossal and they just won't get it. They will not realise that it's a metaphor. They will not realise that it's a deeper meaning. They'll just be like, this is so weird. This is so odd. What the hell is this girl got to do with a monster destroying a city? What a dumb movie. And it's a shame because I sat in that cinema and I was glad to see it and I felt very sorry for the filmmaker because he delivered something good, and unfortunately his film did not make the kind of ripple that alcohol can sometimes make.
I got really melodramatic, didn't I?
Anyway, it's very good. It's very good. It deserves to be watched. I'll stop talking about it now because I think that was enough. Colossal. It's not an 80s movie. It does have an 80s poster. And it's worth checking out. Peace. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.